Welcome to MTM Travel. Mark has headaches with Hilton credits. I stayed at a JW Marriott burning a last minute cert. British Airways kind of sucks. We'll cover all that coming up right now on MTM Travel. So I did something stupid this last week. I had forgotten about a Marriott cert that I needed to use, Mark, and I knew about it, but then, it kind of skipped my mind and weeks passed. And then I realized that it was expiring this week. It was kind of looking at maybe going last minute down to LA to the Ritz, which looks really cool in downtown LA, but ultimately decided to go to the JW Marriott here in Vegas, which is one of the hotels I have not stayed at before. So that was a fun time. I look forward to talking about that, but I don't know. It hurt to use that certificate for a staycation.
Yeah, what was it? 85K, 50K, 35K?
I don't want to say. I don't want to say it was an
So
85K.
Got it.
Yeah. And it was 69K for the hotel, but it's not normally that. Obviously, it was Super Bowl. It was Saturday night. And a lot of the hotels in Vegas were very slow, and the rates were historic lows for the Saturday before the Super Bowl. Not the JW Marriott. It was like $700 a night cash prices. So I got nailed for that. But I wasn't happy with the value of getting it for that property, because if you go during a slow time, you could get it for much less. But hey, it worked out. Got to check it out. We had a great date night there, and it's a great property. The JW Marriott, it really does do the JW Marriott brand well.
Yeah, I know, JW is one of the brands that people really love with Marriott. They have so many brands, but I know it's probably top 4 or 5 for most people. So it's good. I know you said the pool area was really good, one of the better ones in Vegas, and people probably don't know anything about it.
Yeah, so I have an interesting history. I've been going to that property since it opened. I had been in the rooms once. My dad stayed there many years ago, and the rooms were very like mid 2000s. I don't know, sort of Italian theming, not great, very dated by today's standards. They recently renovated them, so you're getting a very modern luxury Marriott product, probably not unlike other JW Marriott's newer builds, stuff like that. But great rooms. They have a separate tub and shower. The tub is jacuzzi tub, Mark, so we're getting an upgrade over the normal tub and shower stuff. So that was really good. But a lot of people will probably know the casino because it's a locals casino. It drives a lot of local clientele, but the hotel is sort of separate. They're connected, but it's sort of off the back of the property. And this property has extensive sort of gardens. It has what they call the Zen Walk, which is all these sort of rivers that run through it and different waterfalls and streams. And then the pool area is massive. It's very quiet, lots of grassy areas within the pool area. It's big waterfalls and stuff like that. Super impressed. And I didn't know a lot about the wider resort. I had been to the casino quite a few times, but hadn't spent a lot of time there lately. And yeah, this is just a wonderful resort. Even if you never really dealt with the casino, this has to be one of the nicest resorts in all of the Vegas area.
Yeah, I mean, grass, streams, all that stuff. Do they know there's a drought in Vegas?
Yeah, they better never remove any of that because they'll never be able to put it back. Yeah, exactly. There, a lot of places have put in fake grass, and just being able to see the real grass, walking around, hearing the water. I was walking out there like 7, 8 in the morning. It was super peaceful. The weather was really nice. So it was just a great time to be there. You forget that you're even in a casino. So like I said, a lot of people like that sort of thing. It could be a standalone golf resort anywhere else, like a JW Marriott in another city on a golf course. That's what it sort of feels like. And then you also have the casino attached.
No, I think that's great. And it's off strip, so you're not in the craziness of that. So if you're looking, for more of a relaxing type of Vegas experience, like you want to go for the weather, you want to go for the pool, you're not a big gambler, I think that's a great option. And then you can use Marriott points. It's probably normally cheaper than any of the MGM properties on the strip. So that's a good option for you. The other ones are like out on Lake Las Vegas. That's more of a resort type feel. And I know there's some south of the strip that give that feeling too, but there's not a ton that aren't, focused on the casino aspect.
Yeah, there is a Westin out at Lake Las Vegas, which is just a pure resort because there is no casino there, which is very nice as well. But yeah, I just enjoyed it. I do, every time I use Marriott, I just reminded how much it's not as good as Hyatt. So arrived as a platinum member. This was the only downside of the stay, but I do want to mention it. And I was checking in, and the guy didn't really mention much of anything about the room. And one thing I had done was message the hotel through the app before that, just asking, what benefits they give as a platinum member. And then also just notating it was my anniversary with my wife, which it is. Kind of nice hotels tend to do something for that. So it's always nice if it's true to reach out and do that. So we did. Anyway, I check in and no upgrade. And he said that there was no upgrades, no suites available. Everything was sold out. But in the app, they were still selling the basic suite. And so I kind of pushed back a little bit. The manager came over. It was so weird because I'm checking in. The guy who checked me in is super nice. The manager was just over there banging her keys the whole time, kind of looking, never greeted me or anything. And then she just came over and told me that there were no suites, that it wasn't there. And I said, but it's showing in the app. And then she told me, well, then book it then. And that was just not the way a manager should respond to anything. I decided to walk away at that point. Instead of like fighting with her or anything. And then I messaged them again through the app, to which they confirmed there was no rooms, that it was a mistake. And they kind of blew me off. And then I just made the choice to let it go because I didn't want to ruin the stay. You know, you're in a beautiful hotel in a beautiful place, and I'm going to get a little pissy because she told me that. I decided not to, but that's just something with Marriott. And then they did send up champagne and these really good truffle chocolates for our anniversary, which I don't think had anything to do with the lady or me saying that she was rude to me or anything. So I just decided to let it go, had a great time. Everybody else I interacted with was great. The property was great. Really hard for me to complain about that one interaction. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, and that's similar with, Hilton. You see that where they almost unilaterally refuse to give you a suite upgrade. It's always like club room or better view, higher floor, maybe like a corner room, but they almost never give a suite. And even Hyatt at times will, not offer it to you as a globalist until you push back a little bit and say, hey, there's some for sale. And then they usually back down there. But this is kind of what I've noticed across Vegas is, for how big it is, how much it relies on hospitality, their front desks are some of the worst in the world.
Yeah, I don't know who's teaching hospitality front desk at the UNLV School of Hospitality, because it's gotten bad. I've seen like comedians, Bill Maher has mentioned this recently, but I've seen a few other people who have traveled for work for a long time just saying how it's not nearly as much fun to check into hotels anymore. I think it's really in the industry. It's just the hospitality isn't as friendly as it used to be. But I also think you could go two ways with that. I could, just be a victim and be so mad and keep complaining until I get something and then ruin my whole stay and say, I can't believe she did this to me. Or I can be like, oh, wow, I'm in this beautiful hotel. I'm only here for one night. And I can either ruin my day or just go about it. And that's fine. It's just one of the limitations. It really wasn't about, they did not have to upgrade me to a suite. It was about her saying there weren't any and me asking, well, there is one for sale. And then her telling me, then book it yourself. I don't know. But that was fine and all good with that. But I did enjoy the room. The room itself is beautiful, modern amenities. Like I said, it has the tub and shower. It's pretty big at 560 square feet. And the other problem is the breakfast benefit.
You're the only person I know that looks up the square footage of every room they ever stayed in.
Why do the hotel websites have it if people don't want that information, Mark? Everybody wants that information.
It's so important. Like, it has to be over 500 square feet for you to be like a good size.
Yeah, 550 is like the base for a luxury hotel room. That's about the smallest it can be. And that's about as small. Yeah, so there you go. 550 square feet. And then the last complaint about Marriott, not a surprise to anybody who does this, but just the breakfast benefit. It's for this hotel, it was $20. Obviously, you can choose 1,000 welcome points instead of the breakfast, which would be dumb. But it didn't cover our full breakfast, which is, something you see with Hilton now as well. So, yeah, I miss Hyatt sometimes.
Yeah, that's the biggest complaint I have about Marriott is that, each property is completely different on what they do for breakfast. You never really know what you're going to get, where, Hyatt has a set standard for the most part. Hilton even, at least explains it out, like for these brands, you'll get this much money. For these brands, this much money. If you're international, you get access to the full breakfast and all of that. But it's well spelled out, where Marriott's kind of like, you'll see when you get there.
Yeah, and then you got to deal with the properties themselves. I don't know. I mean, overall, happy with that. My wife won in the casino too, so we ended up coming out ahead, which made me feel a little bit better about burning that cert for that property instead of something, more exotic. And this is my problem, and we've talked about this before. I'm openly admitting this. I'm trying to do better with not putting these off, but I'm always looking for the special use of these certs, and then this is what happens. So, don't be like me, I guess, is the moral of the story.
This is an argument we've had for what, like 4 years now?
Well, it's not really an argument. I just got to be better about it. But also, I was able to talk about this for work. So there was some value there for me as well, like being able to do that. Having the staycation, it actually worked out really well for our schedules, being able to have somebody watch our daughter So, I mean, I guess this actually was a very good redemption for us. It's just not some sexy exotic hotel like the Ritz-Carlton Hong Kong or something like that.
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest problem with Hyatt when they give you the free night certs for, 30 days, 30 nights and all that stuff is it's only good for 6 months. And that's, at times most of the time it's pretty easy to get something in 6 months, but there's times that like you already have your stuff booked or you pick places that are over a cat 4 and the only other thing you have is like a cat 2 and you're like, okay, I know I can get points for these, but it's annoying. Why are they only 6 months? Why aren't they 12 months like everything else? I just don't get it. Or offer, do you want this or do you want the 10,000 points right now? And that would be a lot better than stressing about it and then hoping they still honor the 10,000 points when it does expire. I wish they would change that up a bit.
And top off the certs, Hyatt. I know, Hyatt doesn't want you to do that. It's not a matter of whether they can on the technological side. They've said that that's not their strategy, but hopefully as this becomes more prevalent with other programs, they'll do it because being able to top these off is great. And Marriott, 85K, but you can top it off. So you can get some really, really fancy properties with that cert. And I just wish that you could top off the points difference, especially with a category 1 through 7, so that you could spend the extra points to get to a category 8. That would make a huge difference.
Well, just make it a when you introduce category 8, you should have made it a category 8 for globalists. If you get that far, you deserve to do that. As they push more and more stuff up. I mean, 1 to 4 search used to be really useful, 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's everything that was like a beloved category 3 or 4 is now a 5, and it just makes it more and more difficult. And every year they suck out the last little remaining value you had. Almost nothing goes from a 5 down to a 4. So you never are like adding new stuff, but the last round they took away Hyatt Regency Chesapeake Bay, which was a favorite, the Thompson in Chicago, which was a favorite, Coconut Point option they took away. It just seems like everything that everybody likes to use them at, they're like, you know what, let's bump this up. So if you at least allowed us to top off up to like just say up to a category 6, you can add points for that or whatever. And if it's peak pricing, you got to pay the peak pricing difference. I think they would come out ahead. That people would be spending more points and all of that stuff, but they don't seem to want to do it, and it's just not very consumer friendly when they're usually pretty consumer friendly on things. And that and Hilton allowing us to book free night certs online are the two biggest thorns in my side with hotels.
Yeah, and I think they're both intentional. I mean, that's the way it is, right? It's breaking things. That's number one on my wish list is Hyatt doing this. Like you said, being able to upgrade one category would be amazing. The equivalent points. If we have to do peak, non-peak, whatever it is, give it to us to be able to do it. Of course, their argument would be they already do have a category 1 through 8 cert mark, the ultimate free night at 150 nights that you get. So there you go. Stay 150 nights.
To the 300 people that get there, it's cool. But no, like like you could just say it's worth 15,000 points. Don't even give it like the upper tier of it. Just say you can use this as 15,000 points towards a cat 5 or a cat 6 and whatever that, if it's peak, if it's non-peak, whatever the difference is, you pay in points. I think people would love it and they would spend more on the credit cards to get it. It's just like a win-win for them. They would chase the 30 nights to get it. I don't know. Makes too much sense, I guess.
So before we go on to your weekend and some other topics, I did want to put out there that we have opened a limited number of slots in MTM Diamond. That's my private Slack group, a community that's been around for several years. We just opened up some slots for referrals and filled them all up with referrals, but I held back some slots for listeners and viewers of the podcast because it hasn't been open for a while. So patreon.com/miles to memories. You can find it there and sign up. They're very limited slots. The price will be going up after this initial round, but I definitely wanted to give people who listen to the podcast, watch me for all these years, a chance to sign up before that happens. So join now if you're interested.
Yeah, we went to up to Saginaw, mid-Michigan to watch the kids in a basketball tournament. And if you've never watched middle school basketball, it is electric. It is like, no, it's pretty terrible. But so I booked a Hilton, just like a Hampton Inn. It was $119, I think, including taxes and fees. I'm like, all right, I got all these, $50 Hilton credits from the Business Platinum, the Surpasses, all that stuff. I think we have $300 a quarter in credits. And I guess this is gripe about crap that hotel programs do because I'm tired of these credits. People try to buy gift cards. Half the gift cards don't work. There's just been problems. And then I hate going down to the front desk and trying to check out with like 3 or 4 different credit cards. Especially we did that at the Conrad, and you just feel like super cheap. I don't know. It's just kind of annoying, or it messes up if it's like booked individual nights with a free night cert. They check you out each night, so you have to like rebuild the bill at the end of it unless you go down each night and check out, or each morning. So this one, just a regular Hampton Inn. I'm like, all right, I'll bring 2 cards, split it up, only pay $19 out of pocket, use 2 of these, credits. It'd be great. Perfect. So I asked at check-in, she's like, do you want to use the card and file? I said, well, I want to use a different card, but I can just do that at checkout, right? Different, put in different cards, whatever. She's like, yeah, you can. So I go to checkout, same girl, and I'm like, all right, I have 2 cards that I want to pay. She's like, oh, you can't do that. And I'm like, I asked you yesterday if I can use a different card to check out. She's like, yeah, you can use 1, but you can't do 2. You'd have to do that at check-in. And I'm like, not to be Shawn here, but I've stayed at hundreds of Hiltons, and maybe not hundreds, but
no, but I mean, it's hard, right? When you know the rules better than them, and
Yeah.
the real skill in that is navigating the conversation without insulting them, because you can't say, "Oh, I know all better than you." So you have to find a way to introduce the information to them in a way where they're comfortable with it, and you're not being a know-it-all. But it does suck when you actually do know this stuff, because we cover it because of all that. I don't want to be a know-it-all. I just want it to work the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. And the problem was they had already billed my other card before I checked out. And we weren't like staying up until the checkout time. This was at like at 10 o'clock or something. So they shouldn't even have like automatically checked me out. So it went billed on my Hilton card, which I guess I could have just left on that, but I wanted to burn the Biz Platinums first. So I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I wanted to say, that's not how it works. You can definitely split tender. Do you not know how to split tender? But I'm like, I'm not going to argue over $50. I don't have the patience right now. We got to get to the last game of their tournament. And I said, fine, just put it on one card, put it on a different card. That's fine. But it's just annoying that depending on where you go, it can be a completely different experience at checkout. And it was small town, small property. So I could have asked, can you go get somebody in the back that knows how to do a split tender? But I didn't want to mess with it. We already had to like complain and switch rooms because our room was supposed to have a pull-out couch. It was 4 of us checking in. It's supposed to be a king bed and a pull-out couch, and there's a lot of space that we brought a blow-up mattress with us. And she sent us up to this room that just had a chair. And I'm like, how do you think 4 people are going to... You saw all 4 of us standing next to each other. How do you think that that's going to work out? Not to mention I booked a room with a sofa bed. So we had to go... And it smelled like chemicals, like really bad. So we had to go back down and switch. So we already had that like strike. And then the same girl, when I saw her check out, I was like, oh, crap. Same girl was like, oh, no, you can't do that. You got to do that. I'm like, nobody's ever asked me to split tender at check-in. That doesn't make any sense.
What you need to do is, when you get a nice person, is ask them to show you the screen, and then they can show you how the software works so that you can then explain it to the person. It's funny, like when I used to do a lot of the Walmart
F7,
stuff.
Then enter, then 1.
When I used to do the Walmart stuff all the time with their tax exempt, a lot of employees wouldn't know how to do it. And so I learned where the button was by watching people. And so that you would see them like struggle. I'd be like, oh, just hit that button right there and then put this in right there. And you can teach them. So that's what you got to do. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe they put notes on there like, watch this guy coming, because every hotel he comes to, he's trying to pay with a bunch of crap and it's causing problems. So maybe they put a note on your profile.
I doubt it. I've only done it like twice. Once at Waldorf Astoria, Maui, but I had bought a gift card down in the spa, and I just thought it was easier to split tender that there and then use the gift card to check out. So she had to rebuild the whole folio, credit me back, and then I could use the gift card for most of it and check out. And of course, the credit didn't come for like over a week. It was like 10 days. I had to reach out to Hilton Twitter, and then it was credited like the next day. So that didn't even go through. It was on there pending, and then it fell off. So I don't know what happened. And then at the Conrad in Orlando, I went after the first night because I knew what was going to happen. It was 2 free night certs for the stay. So I went after the first night and did the split tender. They were a little bit caught back. It's a newer property, but they were able to do it. So her saying no just means she didn't know how to do it. I doubt she would have been able to do it at check-in either. It's just like, whatever. I'm over the point that I'm willing to argue about $50.
Don't you just love when people make up rules to justify like whatever's going on? Like, oh no, you had to do that at check-in. without, like you're absolutely right. She probably had no idea how to do it. And instead of being like, I don't know how to do this, she's just going to kind of deflect to say you had to do it a different way so that she doesn't have to sort of figure it out. I mean, that is the world that we live in today. But I think
Oh,
that this is a lot of the reason people don't want to do this hobby is for stuff
yeah.
like this. They think this is nuts.
Well, and it's stupid when you add all these credits to so many cards. It's like, huh, come on, like make it easier. But that's Amex's way. It's not as bad as JetBlue and Barclays, but it's right up there. But the worst example of this ever was I was at a Kroger buying a money order with a gift card, as some people do, and she looked at it and like saw that I swiped, and she's like, "Oh, it's not going through," and I'm like, "Well, you didn't push the button to process it. I know that you didn't push it because it didn't go to that screen. It didn't even say invalid. You just didn't push the button." She's like, "Oh no, it won't go through." Like I did, it won't go through. I was like, "No, you're not pushing the button." I know, and I had it with her, a couple times, and I was just over it, and I was like, so anytime I see her, I just walk out of the store. But I'm like, "No, you didn't push the button. Whatever. I'll use my regular debit card that earns 1% to get this on." And as soon as I slipped in the chip, oh, it works.
Yeah. Oh man, I have some great stories about employees that tried to screw me at Walmart and things like that. It's all part of the game.
Sir, you
It's all
can't buy so
fun.
many Hatchimals.
I had one lady, yeah, she did that. She started canceling my online orders, and for no reason. And I met her in the store. I had to go to the store and talk to the manager of the store, saying, "Why is she canceling my orders?" And he didn't know why, and she just had a vendetta against me. Still don't know to this day. But that was fun thing. I mean, this is what life's about. You run into all kinds of fun people, all kinds of crazy people, and you have stories to talk about. I guess the key to it all is just learning to kind of go with the blows and just still enjoy yourself, because I know people who like lose it. And my JW Marriott, I was pissed, that she said that to me. And I was like, I can go to war with this woman right now. I can walk away. I can think about it. And then usually if I think about it, I realize it's not as important. And for some people, they will do anything to get compensation. I would rather, the problem is if I have to go pursue your manager, if I have to keep going through all these hoops, it just messes me up to a point where the compensation doesn't feel good. I'd rather I'm just learning to let it go. Just let it go and you're
Yeah.
happier. And, we're not,
Elsa, let it go.
there you go. Sure, you can go into a 5-star hotel and say, this is the way I'm supposed to be treated at a 5-star hotel. And that's true. And you're paying for that. And to some extent, that's true. But if 99.9% of the people treat you well and 1% don't, is it really better to just let that go and move on with your life and enjoy that stay and being like, oh my God, I'm staying in a $700 a night hotel room tonight. Like, that's crazy because I didn't pay for that. And that's something I'm grateful for. So I don't know. That's what I'm trying to be these days. It does take me a while to get there sometimes.
Yeah, what's the crazy Hilton guy that comments on all the blogs? I think like DCS or something, where he has a laminate copy of the Hilton terms and goes to the front desk if they don't give him a suite and a suite's available, and shows them the laminate copy of terms and is like, and goes off about it until he gets it. And I mean, we have a buddy in the groups that does similar things at Hyatt, and he usually always gets a suite. But like you said, I just don't think it's worth it to me. The only time I've really fought at a hotel was when Wyndham tried to charge me, the Wyndham in Orlando, right by like Disney Springs, tried to charge me a resort fee, even though it was an award stay. And I'm like, you're not supposed to charge us on award stay. It was like $80. And I pulled up the terms on my phone, showed it to her. She read them and still was like, well, that's the way we're doing it. So I wrote an article about it. And then their PR person reached out and said, we've already credited you the $80, which is all what I wanted, because I said I was going to reach out to corporate anyway, but I guess they saw the article before I even reached out. But it's like, I mean, you just read the terms, and it's a BS fee. Like, you have the authority to wipe it off. Every front desk agent, if you complain about something, has the authority to wipe off that fee.
And this is like another reason why you can't, it's nice to enjoy your life and to go with the flow. And I have friends who do that. And I think that that's actually a great way to be. And, not to be fighting about everything and worrying about every little thing. You got to sort of pick your battles. But there's times people will just railroad you. And like you say, they'll lie to you, say you can't do this, you can't do that. And you're just trying to do innocent things. And so if you just say, okay, and take everything that people give, a lot of times you're not getting what you're supposed to. There really is this line between, should I get everything I'm expecting or everything even I'm entitled to, or am I going to be unhappy fighting for that? And is it really worth that? At least for me, because I do get I don't like confrontation. So if I have some sort of a confrontation, and by the way, me just complaining and saying that, to me, that's not a confrontation. It's when the staff, or when it gets to another level where now I'm upset and they're upset, and like that's only going to hurt my stay in the end. And give me points, whatever, but that doesn't make up for it. I would rather still have to stay. I paid for the hotel because I want to pay for the hotel. I don't want you to give me free points. I don't want to get the hotel for free in a different way. I want to pay my points. I want to do that and enjoy it. And yeah, so I think compensation is the ultimate travel hack in the space. Going for it and doing it. People have those skills, but is it really worth it? And is it worth kind of ruining your trip? And I don't know. So there you go. But I think most people think I'm crazy. They say, get what you can, maximize everything.
Yeah. Well, I think for some people it's like a game and they like to play it, and hey, more power to you if you enjoy it. I'm one that it's got to be either you have to offend me in a way, or it's got to be worthwhile of my time. Like I said, the $50 was not worthwhile my time. I still got a room for like $68, $69. That's fine. I mean, it's good enough. It's not everything I wanted, but I'm okay rolling with that and moving on with life. And so it kind of has to be, the combination of those two. And for some people, that's just, they're always looking for a way to do it. And hey, but Hilton and others have shut down people for asking for too much compensation. So you have to like walk that fine line.
Yeah, and so here's a tip that kind of alludes to what I talked about earlier, is they're all keeping a record of who you are. So generally, all of these hotel programs have a screen where the hotels can put in notes. So if you're particularly bad, or if you're somebody who's always angling for something, they can put in notes that kind of describes you. So we really don't know what the hotels are seeing about us when we go there. And so if you're a bad actor, there's chances are there's some notes. I don't know, maybe there's some notes about me. I don't know whether there is or not. But they are seeing
this guy's
that.
Voice gets really shaky when he's mad.
That phase of my life has passed now, thankfully. So I just sort of figured it out. But I have a pet peeve about people being rude to people. It's sort of my thing, and I'm learning to just sort of walk away from that. But the art of complaining. I really would love to hear discussion about this, about people, if they feel good about it, if they feel bad about it. What are we doing here as far as what are you entitled to? When do you say something? When do you not say something? When you just let it go for the sake of that? And sometimes you're with your family and they don't want to deal with it. They don't want dad being the angry guy at the front desk complaining. They're just like, come on, dad, I don't get that. I don't know. I'm over complaining, Mark. I'm just really like, if it comes to making a choice between doing it and not doing it, I'm going to opt to not do it these days, give up a few points that I might've gotten, and just really try to enjoy my travels.
Hey, no more complaining. But hey, let's complain about British Airways.
Yeah, all we do is complain. I mean, what about them and their pulling their transfer bonus without any notice?
Yeah, I mean, it's just shady. We talk about this on 20-Minute Travel briefly, the episode that's coming out Wednesday, but I thought it's worth highlighting in case people don't listen to that show or watch that show. This is just something that, British Airways had it on their site that you get 20% bonus when you transfer Ultimate Rewards there coming from them, which is a little bit unique. Usually it comes from Chase with British Airways, but it was up on their site, didn't really have terms or anything, so it felt a little off. But they posted it, so they should be honored. And then sometime Sunday night, early Monday, whatever it be, they pulled those terms off of their thing. Didn't put any notice about it, like, hey, this was an error. We're honoring anything up until this time. Nothing like that. Nobody's gotten their points after a couple days of transfers. It doesn't seem like it's gone through. And there's just no notice. I'm sure that they'll eventually do it because everybody has screenshots of this offer. If you don't, you can check the article. I shared one that somebody had. So you have those terms, that offer available to you. So I think they're going to have to do it. But the fact that they kind of do it sneakily and hope people don't reach out or complain is just shady to me.
So many companies do this. They have a mistake, they change something, and then they just pretend that nobody's going to notice instead of just putting a notice out there, like on the website. This was released by mistake. We're honoring it. Our system isn't working to see the bonuses. We're doing it manually. Whatever is going on. And it just takes a big backlash and bad PR and all of this stuff. And it's just funny that they don't proactively think that, hey, if we just do this and fix this, that nobody's going to notice. people notice. So yeah, I don't get that. That it just happens so often with so many companies where they just change stuff and then they never tell us about it.
Yeah, and it's a simple thing to do. Like they can see when transfers came through, they can box those off and then add the points to the accounts. But if they just came out and said, "Hey, it might take us some time, but this is what we're going to do. It's no longer valid." All of that stuff, like it's the simplest proactive management. You save your call center from calls. You help your workers out there. You don't get complaints coming in via text and stuff that they have to respond through. So you're going to spend more money responding to all of this than you would have just paying out the points and putting that notice on there. If you put that notice, then everybody would be cool, understandable, and they'd give you like a week or two to get it all corrected. I mean, I'll say like Built's done some things that aren't the greatest. They're not the most forefront on certain things, but the one time that they mistakenly sent out the email that people's accounts were getting closed down, everybody panic transferred. They did honor that. They put the points back in the account, and they didn't take them from Hyatt and stuff because they weren't going to go to Hyatt and be like, "Hey, we need those points back." So they just basically people got free 100,000, 50,000, whatever points they had in their balance. They got paid out, and that's how they should handle all things. All companies should. And then Built did that, which was great, and then did a whole bunch of other stuff that they didn't properly disclose or mention. Somebody, went off on their own and did it, or at least that's what we were told, and did it ahead of time before they could put it in an announcement or anything. So, that happens at times, but then it happened again, which makes it a little bit, feel a little bit worse. If it was a one-off, okay. But these are the things, like after the first time, you better make damn well sure that you don't do it again, especially like close together. Just be forthright. If you tell people you messed up, they're going to understand.
Sometimes, sometimes in this world they'll understand. But I do like
Yeah.
the bonuses that are originated from the bank side. That way you see it all ahead of time. And
Yeah.
like you had pointed out in 20-minute travel, Life Miles does this a lot where they match on their side. Hadn't really seen British Airways do this a lot. So maybe that is really what's causing the problem here, is that they're not used to this version of it where they're matching you on their own end and Chase isn't doing it up front. But yeah, I mean, corporations are evil, Mark, and we should all know it. And that's why we should take advantage of the rules that they set, because we're in their ecosystem, live in the guidelines, know the rules, and take every bit of advantage that you can.
We just did a 180 there. You went from let it go to fight for everything.
No, not fight for everything, to take advantage of everything. I'm not talking about when you're at the front desk. By that point,
Yeah.
make the decision to be happy. But, know what the rules are and figure out where certain programs rules, where you can operate within that. This is their ecosystem. They have all the power, their terms and conditions protect them in so many ways. Oftentimes they can close you down, take your points, all this other stuff. Yeah, fight back by knowing what the rules are and operating within that, except when you're at the front desk and it's going to ruin your whole trip. There you go.
Yeah. If it's at checkout, go ham.
They'll never see you again. But seriously, I have always wanted to ask at Hyatt specifically, but find like a cool guy at the Hyatt place in the middle of the night, check in person, and ask them to see what my notes say. Has anybody else? I wonder if anybody else is curious about what their notes say about them. I don't think it's anything particularly crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that would be cool to see. It's kind of like you get to see your own Uber and Lyft rating and all that stuff. And it'd be kind of curious to see if like hotels had a rating, if you could look at it and see what they've said about things and whatnot. But I doubt they'll ever share anything like that.
That's why I said you got to get to a Hyatt place. You get some stoner kid working the middle of the night shift. Say, hey, can you, let me see. I've always been curious about this.
Bring some
I
brownies.
bet you could do it. Yeah, there you go. Laugh while you look at all the other guests' notes and stuff that are in the hotel. Just go through the accounts. I don't know, but I'm sure there's some really crazy, interesting stuff in there. They also track social media profiles. I've heard certain brands do that as well. And I'm not talking about for like people like us. I'm talking about for normal people. If they can track it back, anything that they can track back to you, they're doing it, trying to give them the advantage. And they can also see your history of the property, all of that stuff. It's really fascinating. I would love to see just more of what this software entails. I know that it's not like government secret stuff, but I haven't worked at a hotel, so I haven't really seen it. And if anybody out there works at one, let us know what your system says about customers when they check in and what mean things you can add to it.
That's kind of like what the Michelin star restaurants do, like the high end restaurants. They'll kind of scrub your info before you get there so they know a little bit about you and your likes and tastes, why you're there. So they can be like happy anniversary before you even say anything if you didn't notate it and stuff, which is creepy. but also kind of cool. I don't know which side leans more to, but yeah, it's kind of scary, but also kind of amazing that they go to that detail and depth. But yeah, it's something to look out for.
So let us know what you guys think about anything we talked about. The JW Marriott versus Hyatt, the quirks there, the differences, elite status, sort of pushing the boundaries. How far will you go at the front desk? Finding out about the notes that they talk about you, all those sorts of things. Leave a comment, everything we discussed on this show. Are you still running into Hilton headaches like Mark is? We have 20-minute travel coming out on Wednesday with all the miles and points news from this week. So make sure to check that out as well. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, consider leaving us a review. We haven't had one in a while. That would help us out a lot. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Talk to you next time.
I know we haven't read mean ones about me in a while. We need some of that.
Thanks for... Oh, don't invite it. Don't invite it.
Have a good week, everybody.